Welcome back to another episode on Between the Notes podcast. And today we have a very special episode. One of my wonderful colleagues here at Central City Opera in The Ballad of Baby Doe, incredible performer, artist, soprano, now mezzo, Emily Pulley. Thank you so much for
Yay,
joining us today.
welcome.
You, happy to be here.
Yeah. So, um, you know, to give you a little history, I have heard Emily Pulley's name like my entire career, but I would say it was probably something about 10 years ago where my mom was attending a performance. Either it was with the Houston Symphony or the Houston Grand Opera.
Houston Grand
And
Opera, yeah.
it was HGO. And was it a Falstaff? Is that what it was?
It was Falstaff, yep.
Okay.
Oh, super
And
fun.
she was like, Weston, I think tonight I'm gonna meet Bryn Terfel. And I was like, what? Okay, that's awesome. And so apparently my mom's roommate, who I only know her first name, Kirby, is one of your dear friends from
Yes,
College Station.
yes.
And somehow the three of you attended this show, and then you managed to invite Bryn, and I don't know. You may fill us in a little
Oh,
bit. That's all.
it was great. One of my I mean, Bryn and I have been buddies, from working at the Met and, mutual friends, and I also taught him the sign language for Kumbaya, which he was very excited about. So
Oh,
anyway,
there you
so
go.
so we're very close.
As you do.
And one of my really close friends, is she just worships the ground that he walks on. So she was just excited to get to go see Bryn live in Falstaff. And I said, I'm a terrible, terrible, terrible liar, but I managed to fib and say, well, Andrea, I'm really sorry, but Bryn has a patron function after the show. He can't meet with us, but but he's very honored that you came, and everything. So meanwhile, we're sitting at this outdoor bar, and Bryn is staying in the apartments nearby, and he comes walking up behind my friend and reaches down and bear hugs her behind. And she was speechless for about an hour after that. She was just on another planet. But it was this performance that my friend Kirby and your mom uh, came to, and we were all hanging out, and my sister as well, and we were all hanging out. And so then Bryn, was awesome as he always is, and so we were there for a couple hours at least. And I think my friend regained her powers of speech somewhere in the second hour. But yeah, that was a great night. And likewise, I've been hearing Weston's name forever, and it was so cute hearing your mom talk about you to Bryn and say, my
Can
son is
only
an opera
imagine.
singer, and as only moms can. So, but that was a great night. Great
Oh,
How
night.
fun. How fun.
Yeah. And
Well,
here we
I
are
mean,
working together finally.
I know, right? Finally. And what a piece to be working on together. So Emily is singing the role of Augusta Tabor in The Ballad of Baby Doe, Horace Tabor's first wife. And we were talking the other day. I think that Douglas Moore missed the opportunity for a really beautiful duet between Horace and Augusta so that the audience could see that their relationship was not always sort of worn out. I wish that
yeah.
there was something a
No,
little
I
bit,
mean, I was just having this conversation. We pick up this story well into their marriage. The early days where it's hinted at in my first aria, all that they had to go through, before he struck it rich.
Right.
right?
But at this point, things are already not going well, because he's got all this money and is just enjoying spending it, and that's just not what Augusta is into. She's a lot more
Right.
practical and careful with how she spends money. And so they really have very opposite life philosophies at this point, but they didn't
Right.
Mhm.
always. They moved out west together and had unbelievable hardships and always managed to make it work, and were a really, really strong team.
Yeah.
But we enter the opera, um well into the when their ways are starting to diverge.
There's a little flirty moment where you take my hat off and you say, "Are you coming up?"
Yes,
And I say, "Yes, soon."
yes. I
But
I think that it's really important to get that in there. And one of the
yeah,
when I was researching this role, one of the saddest things I read was this letter that Augusta had written to Horace, for the dedication of the Tabor Block
Mhm.
in Denver, and
Mm.
she was saying, "I really wish I could be by your side for this. I feel like,
Oof.
I was such a huge part of the history of how you got here, but he chose not to have her by his side." And man, it just tears you apart to read
Yeah.
that, because I
Yeah,
think,
sure.
like in the opera, I do think, even though once he was with Baby Doe, she just sort of let them live their life. But I do think that she continued to love Horace for the rest of her life, and it's very famous in there. She did not want a divorce, and she screamed during the actual court proceedings that she
Right.
did not want it. So I think, and we found out on our tour that she did actually give money to Horace and Baby Doe. That's not, I don't know that that's a well-known fact, but it
Hmm.
seems to be that she did try to support them. But um, you know, it's interesting having seen this piece multiple times. You feel different, when you're playing Augusta. Of course, you kind of do it from her perspective, but I have a lot of sympathy for you and Baby Doe. I think the fact that you do have a real love, and it is, the happiest you've ever been. And I think Augusta would have gotten that, but I don't think that it would have prevented her from being very sad and sort of lost.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Of course, because how the music currently sits, you and I spend most of our time on stage yelling at each other, so
We do.
which is
We
fun,
have a
don't get
good
me
time
wrong, it's
yelling at each
fun.
other.
Right. Sure.
It's great.
And little
Yeah.
little known fact, one of the first roles that Brian, did at the New Orleans Opera was one of the lackeys in The
Oh my
Ballad of Baby
That's
gosh.
Doe.
true. That is
See?
very true.
All bringing it all together. Yeah.
That's right.
I I think really it's one of these pieces that it feels very different from the inside out than it does from the outside in. I
Mm.
think when you feel like you're a part of the story, it hits very differently than when you're just witnessing the story.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Emily, talk a little bit about how you got started in singing, and I mean, I know you're from College Station, I know you did your undergrad in Texas, so talk us through how this all kind of career started for you.
Well, I was a big band nerd before I was a choir person, and
Okay, you're in good
but
company.
then
Brian and I both played trumpet in junior
Woohoo!
high, and of course, Brian went on and played
fantastic.
trumpet for a lot longer. But what did you
Yeah,
play?
I was flute player, flute and
Love
piccolo,
it. Love it.
and drum major.
Yay.
And uh I loved choir. I've always loved to sing. I was terribly, terribly shy, but I was never shy when I was up singing in front of people. So singing actually was sort of a way for me to come out of my shell, and I felt very comfortable. And then when I was in choir, I made the all-state choir a couple of times as a second alto. I
Okay.
actually sang tenor in choir for the last 2 years of high school.
Nice.
Well, Weston, you remember H. Ross Perot. Um, and he instituted something called no pass, no play, where if you were failing any subject, you couldn't do UIL activities. And so it
Right.
wiped out our entire tenor section
No.
Oh, no.
That's a great quote. I love that.
right before contest. And if you've been singing alto, you're well aware of the fact that the tenors have a much more interesting line. So once I switched to tenor for contest, it was like, oh, I don't want to sing alto anymore. So when I when when after I made the all-state choir the second time, I asked my choir director, should I major in music? And he goes, yes, and you should go to West Texas and study with my teacher. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I did, and after studying with her for a very short time, she goes, Emily, I think you're really a soprano. I was like, but I don't want to be a soprano.
Yeah, I
So
wanna be a tenor.
I know exactly.
Don't
I
we all?
mean,
Don't we all? What can you say,
so I was lucky that the soprano roles that I got to do were really nice, sort of off the beaten path a lot of the time. I mean, Susanna was one of my go-to roles.
Oh,
Nedda and Pagliacci, I did quite a bit. Minnie and Fanciulla was absolutely one of my favorite roles. And so I got to do, and a lot of contemporary stuff, a lot of really
Mhm.
interesting beeps and clicks, as I like to say, where it's like my kingdom for a major triad. So, I enjoyed my time singing soprano, and then I just kind of made the decision. I was tired of competing with 20 somethings and 30 somethings, and I I asked my manager. I said, I think I would like to rebrand as a mezzo, and so I sang some rep for him, and he said, I think this is absolutely the right move, and I've never been happier.
Mm.
How long ago
I've
was that you made that
never been
transition?
happier. I guess maybe about 10 years ago that I kind of, and I do dabble in soprano, but most of the time I'm singing mezzo, and mostly character roles, which I have a term that I coined, that I told Weston about, Schaden ein anderer muss es singen Freude, which is that feeling you get when you hear somebody sing a role that you used to sing, and I felt it very strongly when I was singing Marta and Faust instead of Marguerite.
Right,
And
sure.
Marguerite's get through that final trio, and I'm just like, see you, curtain call.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I'm having, and another wonderful development in our business is that it used to be that you absolutely had to choose, are you going to do opera or are you going to do musical theater? And now not only are you allowed to do both, but you're expected to do both. So I'm getting to do musical theater roles. I got to do Miss Lovett, I got to do Desiree.
Wow.
So it's so again, I've never been happier. I'm so grateful that I'm still doing this. And
I would love to sing Sweeney to your Mrs. Lovett. Let's put that out there in the
oh
universe.
my
That'd
gosh,
be
put that out
amazing.
there in the universe, as the kids
Yeah.
say. Yeah, I did Beggar Woman a couple of times, and then I finally got to do Mrs. Lovett, and oh my gosh, so much fun. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be a dream role to get to do that with you, Weston. I would love it.
Mm.
So fingers crossed.
Yeah. So that's exciting. And you live in the New York area, and so I
Do
think I think
I
that
do?
yeah.
Yeah, my sister-in-law and my niece have houses that are adjoined by a garage in the central New York region, south of Albany, and I have the basement, the walkout basement in my sister-in-law's house. So I have my country house, and then I have my New York apartment, so I get to go back and forth, and then of course I go back to Texas and visit my peeps down in Texas and make sure I can still use y'all and fix it too correctly in a sentence. And so
And just in case if you needed a
Absolutely.
reminder of the humidity and the heat, you can always
oh my gosh.
snap back into
I
that.
know I need to go visit, but it's like, does it have to be in August?
Yeah.
You learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, Brian knows a
Yes.
little bit of that being in New Orleans.
Touche.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. They don't mess around. And people saying, "Oh, it's Texas. It's a dry heat." It's like, nope,
Nope.
wrong.
No. Well,
But we're very
my family came from Midland, Odessa, and Lubbock,
oh,
and, if you
yeah.
do make your way out there to West Texas, it can be a dry heat,
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
but not once you get around Austin and anything further southeast than
Oh,
that.
yeah. Well, I have a great fondness for Midland, Odessa because when I was about to graduate undergrad and I was going to quit singing, um, I just on a whim entered the Midland Odessa Symphony competition,
Oh, wow.
and I won. And I was the first singer who had won that competition in over a decade. And
Was
so
it
it
like
was it
all
was
instrument like, it was like
yeah,
competing
it was
against
it was
everything?
it was in all the instruments and piano as well, and
Wow.
so, and part of the prize was getting to perform with the symphony. But that was literally what made me think maybe I should keep doing this. And then, much like with my undergrad, I had a friend from WT who said, when I said, "Should I pursue my master's?" She goes, "Yes, and you should come to North Texas and you should study with my teacher." And I was like, "Okay."
I've heard that
So
story before.
I've been very Forrest Gumpian in my career, but you can see that in retrospect, a lot more easily than you can, when it's actually happening. But
Sure.
yeah, very lucky. I was telling my sister-in-law, I have people in my life that I call my pinball people who, when you're bouncing off all the bumpers and everything, and it's starting to go down, and they're the flipper that just kicks you back into the action. And so I've been really fortunate to have those people show up at just the right time in my life to get me back out there, and I'm here.
There you
That's
It's
the
go.
last
amazing.
trick was like,
So for
and
anyone who
I'm
doesn't
here.
know, WT, West Texas A&M in
Yes.
Canyon, Texas. That's where you.
Yep.
And did you do all 4 years there? And
I
like
did all 4
just
years
kind
of
of went straight
undergrad.
through.
My teacher was a fantastic teacher. Her name was Elsa Porter, and she studied under Dame Eva Turner. Eva Turner was
Yeah.
at Oklahoma for a few years, and so she was very old school. And when I made my Covent Garden debut, and it meant so much to me because Eva Turner is still absolutely revered at Covent Garden. So I felt like Luke Skywalker, Ben Kenobi, Yoda sort of thing
Right.
happening.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, so and one of the security guards there was so great because I think he had been there for, gosh, 60 years maybe. And I mean, Dame Eva, that was the magic word, and he treated me just like royalty every time I walked through that stage door. So that was very touching. So but yes, so I was really lucky to have a great teacher at West Texas, and then a great teacher at North Texas as
Did you go
well. And
straight
then
from one to the other?
I did, and I finished up at North Texas, and my first professional opera gig was here in Central City. I was a studio artist in 1992,
Wow.
and that was the only thing I had on my calendar. So after that summer, that was the summer after I finished my master's, I moved back in with my parents, and I sang in a folk band and worked at a copy store and conducted 2 church choirs. And I happened to get back in the day when you used to have to mail in your applications for competitions and such,
Sure. With your cassette
I
tapes.
I know back in the day. So I received an invitation to do the Met auditions. I'd
Mm,
gotten as far as regional, and they used to send you an application if you'd gotten as far as regional auditions. And so I remember getting that invitation in the mail and just laughing, going, I literally have nothing to lose. So
right.
I did the auditions totally under the radar, and in San Antonio, and they did the district auditions one day and the regional auditions the next day.
Right.
And I had strep throat, which my dad thought was a brilliant strategy. So but I won the district, and then I won the regionals the next day, and then got to New York, and I think there were, can't remember, 40 something singers, over half of whom were sopranos. And I thought, well, this has been fun. And but then I was one of the national winners, and I made my Met debut the following season. So
Wow.
Wow.
Exciting.
I very often say to young singers, the 3 most encouraging words and the 3 most discouraging words in this career are the same 3 words, and they are, you never know, because
Mm,
you never know, but you never
right.
know.
Right. Sure.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
What was your debut role there?
What?
What
Pardon?
was what was your debut role at the Met?
So my solo debut, 4 notes in Danish in Death in Venice.
Wow.
Dyers of Arm, in case you're wanting to look that up. Yes, I was the Danish lady in Death in Venice, and it just, the timing happened to be so great because they were doing this show, and they had to hire a bunch of these really really small parts, and so they decided to hire some people who had just won the Met auditions, and I made my Met debut. I think Michelle may have, I don't know if she debuted in that role, or if she was High Priestess in Aida, but anyway, Michelle DeYoung, who I know is
Huh. Right.
on faculty with you.
Sure.
She was in Death in Venice with me, Chris Jepsen, Tony Stevenson. I mean, just like so many people who became my favorite people.
Yeah.
And it was Tom Allen was singing the villains in that, and Anthony
Wow.
Rolfe Johnson. So it was a great experience. And from that, I uh, I was offered a full season the next season, and I was there for 12 seasons.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
like so many people, when Peter Gelb came, he really wanted to clean house, and so we turned his name into a verb. It's like, I got gelbed.
Yeah.
So many of us got gelbed, but um, I'm very lucky that I have a lot of companies that they were happy that I had more free time in my calendar. And so, and now those were a lot of those were the same companies that when I said I wanted to start singing mezzo rep, they're like, great, what would you like to sing? So
Awesome.
I don't
Yeah.
know that if I hadn't been, if I'd had a more high profile career at the Met, I don't know that my switch to mezzo soprano would have been nearly as easy as it was.
Mhm.
So because, people have opinions.
I've
Do they?
noticed. Yeah,
I
for
hadn't
sure.
People
noticed.
have some opinions. So yes, I was very, very fortunate that a lot of those regional companies were there for me, on my way up, and they're there for me now. And a lot of them have also let me direct, which is one of my favorite things. So
Yeah,
you
talk a
just
little bit about that because I mean, how did that transition happen for you, and what kind of things do you have? What kind of projects have you worked on that you really are proud of, and what do you have coming up in that sort of
well,
venue?
I was doing a project with Zachary James.
Yeah,
Um, Wonderful. He and I were doing the Phoenicia Festival of the Voice, and we were carpooling to rehearsals, and so we had very long conversations. And he just kind of out of the blue said, "I bet you'd make a really good director." And I said, I've directed some scenes, but I think I would really enjoy, directing a full production." And then the next thing I knew, he was with Opera Ithaca at the time, and they offered me a Bohème to direct Bohème. And Zach had to step away because his career just took off, and so they sort of regrouped the season that I was supposed to direct. But then when they started back up, they said we'd still like for you to come direct. So I did. My first professional directing gig was from the downbeat of rehearsal to the downbeat of opening night was 1 week. I have one
wow.
week to put Bohème together. And
That's
so
so.
you
Yeah.
you learn to be very organized and to really manage your time well, when they say this is your one rehearsal with the children's chorus,
Wow.
and things like that. So everything, beyond that, when I've had, oh wow, you mean I actually have an assistant director? Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I stage managers? Oh, that's exciting.
Mhm.
So when you learn to do things, having to do everything by yourself, the gig I probably am most proud of was I directed and sang Little Buttercup in HMS Pinafore with Nashville, and I had three stage managers and props and all. I just had so many people. It's like I would just say something out loud, and the next rehearsal I'd get what I needed. It was like, this is amazing. So I was really proud of that production. And I directed a Candide, um, that Kelsey Grammer was our Pangloss. So
Wow. How cool is
so it
that?
was pretty surreal, giving direction to
Frasier.
Frasier.
Yeah. We love
But
Frasier in our house. He's got a
he
very
was
dear
yes,
part.
he was very supportive and very kind to me, and he was a wonderful Pangloss. So those are big highlights for me. And somebody was asking me, how do you get into directing, and I said, you say yes to everything that they offer you.
There you go.
So I did the Pauline Viardot Cinderella, and I was the fairy godmother, and then also directing. And I think I got paid $1.50 for doing both of those things. But I learned so much, and that's the thing, is every directing gig, I learn just major amounts of useful information, and then you get to build on that, and you get to see the show from a completely different perspective. And
Mm,
when I'm getting to perform in it as well, that's my favorite, because then there's not that divide between the production team and the performers, because you're sort of you bridge that gap. And again, it keeps you very honest, because you don't want to waste anybody's time, and you're going to advocate for your singers. And I've been very fortunate with the things I've gotten to do.
Yeah,
mm.
one of the things that I always say is that it's so incredibly important for young singers to understand the art form from as
Oh
many
yeah.
different angles as they possibly can. I remember
Sure.
when I was singing with the National Opera Company, it was our responsibility to unload the 18-wheeler and set up the set ourselves, and then you could choose if you wanted to be on wigs, and costumes, or if you wanted to hang lights, or if whatever element you wanted to sort of focus on.
Right.
And at the time, of course, we were like, I was singing Figaro in the Barber of Seville, but I was hanging lights right before it, and so it was you don't realize the benefit of doing it while you're doing it
Oh, yeah.
necessarily, but I
I
think you begin to appreciate so many aspects of the art form by being involved. And I've only directed one fully staged production, which was The Marriage of Figaro. But I've staged some scenes, and just dipping my pinky toe into that, like you said, it's such a honor and a benefit to be able to view the entirety of the show or the scenes or whatever it is from a completely different perspective and understand how it all fits together.
Yes, and it makes you a better performer,
Yeah.
and because it's creative problem solving, which we've been doing as singers, and a lot of us have been in productions where, we should have gotten a directing credit.
You got that right.
But, it also when you're on the other side of it, and, I always tell my cast, "I if you have a suggestion, I will absolutely try it, and if we decide not to do it, then I will tell you why, and, but I am thrilled to take credit for your brilliance."
Well, I
If we
think
have
that
a
speaks volumes to you, because I
Yeah,
think what that
Sure.
essentially is saying is that you don't have your ego tied up in this, and
right,
you're able to
right.
collaborate with a cast and try things, just whatever. People have ideas, it's
Oh, yeah,
great.
it's great.
Yeah,
So,
it sounds very like Silicon Valley, right? But it's like best idea wins, you know.
Yeah.
Let's just all
Yeah.
all put it out on the table and work as an ensemble here together and yeah, and they can be weaved together in such a great way. I love that. Yeah.
yep. No, it's great. It's great. I mean, and that's I remember I did a couple monodramas once, and I remember an audience member during the talkback saying, "Oh, it must be so you must enjoy being the only person out there on stage." And I'm just like, "No, opera is a collaborative art form. I want to be, it's the group effort that makes it so special, and I really feel that with this ensemble that we have for Baby Doe. I mean, we literally made a baby together. Baby. Um,
The
so
conductor had a child, about,
yeah,
what was
Oh,
it,
right. Yeah, of course.
a week before opening.
yeah. So,
Oh, exciting.
but you feel the energy, and everybody, I think, it feels like such a part of this piece, and it's the and I think, opening night, what was so nice is we felt like the audience felt like the final piece to the puzzle, that because
Mhm.
their energy that they brought just fed us, and
Different.
just felt like such a
It really did complete the
group
puzzle, you're
experience. It
right.
was really great.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
looking forward, what are some of the projects that you have on the horizon that you could talk about that you're excited about?
Well, something I'm very excited about, especially since I just saw the Figaro here, when it opened. I'm doing my first Berta, and then literally getting on a plane after the last performance of Berta to go sing Marcellina. So
Perfect. Perfect.
so I'm great, and I was like, somebody needs to write an opera about the time between Barber of Seville and Marriage of Figaro, how Berta became Marcellina, and how they had a baby, and how it got kidnapped. It's like someone needs to write that opera, so I'm
Oh,
putting that
that's
out there.
funny.
So I'm really excited about that. Uh, I did an Albert Herring. I sang Florence Pike and Albert Herring at WT. I went back as a guest artist, and while I was there creating some of the ugliest sounds that I think have ever come out of my mouth, the the symphony conductor said, "You know, have you ever sung Elgar's The Music Makers?" I was like, "Well, I love Elgar." And I said, he goes, "I think you'd be really good for this." And of course, this is something that Dame Janet Baker sang, and of course, she's glorious. And I was like, I'm just impressed that he somehow heard what I did as Florence Pike and thought, "Oh yeah, some
This would
beautiful,
be
elegant."
perfect for Elgar.
So anyway, so I'm really excited about that. That's coming up this fall. And I was just telling my sister-in-law, it's like I in the past 2 days I've had to turn down 2 gigs because they were direct hits with the performance dates of those of those projects. So it's like, so I'm sure that there will be more, but those are the things I'm looking forward to the most coming up. And hopefully some of the schedule conflicts that I've had in the past are going to come back, and they'll plug me in, because I was supposed to direct 3 Decembers that I didn't get to direct, and that's a role that I've done 2 roles in that show, and so I'm hoping to get to direct it as well. So, and and then there's our Sweeney that we're destined to do now.
There
So
you go.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being on here with us and for sharing your stories. And I look forward to the next 8 performances that we have remaining
Wow,
for
that's
Ballad of
awesome. I
Baby
was wondering
Doe.
how many you guys had left. Yeah.
Yeah, we have
what a
8 left.
luxury. Yeah,
Next one is well, I guess this will be released on Friday, so we will have already have done performance number 2. But we've got, this week is a little crazy. We've got a Wednesday and a Friday and a Sunday, so just one
Yep.
day
Oh.
off in between those. So
Crazy schedule, but what a luxury in this day and age. When I mean, the shows I directed out at Steamboat, we had 1 performance of each show, and it's just like, it just feels so the chance to actually get to do this show. And there are already things that I'm thinking about that happened during our opening night. It's like, ooh, we can build on that,
oh yeah,
and
yeah, we really get to
and
live with these characters.
yeah, it's really exciting. And every moment on stage with you, Weston, is just pure joy, even though we're
Don't
yelling
make
at
me
each other.
blush.
It's just
Don't make me blush. Well, thank you
Oh,
again. And yeah, so if you're in the Denver area, please make your way up the mountain to Central City and come see the Ballad of Baby Doe. There's also performances of The Marriage of Figaro, and Masterclass will be opening soon. So
the
check
18th.
out
That is fun.
centralcity.org.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a great season with incredibly talented artists. And so yeah. Well, thanks again. And until next time, please remember to like and subscribe. And we will see you next week on Between the Notes podcast.
absolutely. See you then.
Thanks for joining us on Between the Notes. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And join us next week for more behind-the-scenes stories, laughs, and operatic gold coming your way.